This is Robert Mardlacci, the MindShare Learning Report, Canada's Learning and Technology e-magazine, and welcome to This Week in Canadian EdTech. We have a very special MindShare TV podcast. I'm honored to have join me for a MindShare Learning Moment, Marilyn Schultz, who is the founder of Big Deal Media, on their recent Power Trip Wellbeing and Leadership Summit for Women School District Leaders. Marilyn, thank you for joining me this afternoon, morning your time in California.
It's actually, I'm in Illinois.
Apologies, I'm not sure why. That's where the conference was based. That's where my head was in California.
Well, everything is. I've lived all over the United States, so I can see where in the mind I'm of the universe rather than of a specific city.
Well, it is a virtual world we live in today. Yeah. And so talk to me a little bit about the inspiration around Big Deal Media, first of all.
Well, thank you for asking, and thank you for having me on this TV, MindShare Learning live show. I feel like kind of an honorary Canadian since I grew up outside of Buffalo.
That's right.
And
friendly neighbors to the south.
That was always our very sophisticated neighbor to go to Toronto.
Well, we always enjoy coming down to Buffalo. In fact, we're looking at opening a co-working space down in Buffalo. It's really come a long way, and lots of exciting things happening. So next time you visit, you're going to have to pop up.
Absolutely going to visit. Absolutely.
So could I say that you're a bit of a legend in the EdTech space? What inspired you to get into it?
Well, everything is an evolution in this business. I started out in educational publishing as a writer-editor at an educational magazine called Instructor, which at the time was, the leading, educational magazine for elementary educators. And it was also one of the longest published magazines overall. It had, begun in 1891.
Amazing.
All of that said, my progression was to move into the advertising space. I was asked to move into the advertising space. I moved from upstate New York to California, back to New York City and I spent about 14 years in New York City. And in 1993, moved to Illinois. All of this is by way of saying, how did I get here? My background is in print. And I think a lot of people who are in the EdTech space today have that print background. That's where we come from.
And it's a very good grounding, no doubt.
Very. We actually care whether something is misspelled on a blog or, on the digital version of the New York Times. We can spot it. So those kinds of details are important. But the point is that we have all had to evolve to accommodate this new virtual world and the evolution of EdTech. So EdTech had its own beginnings, and it has evolved, and it has evolved with the number of companies in that space. And again, Big Deal Media started as we had a print publication called Big Deal Book of Technology. And the point of that, and it was a print publication when it started, the point of it was to help educators find free and inexpensive resources on the internet, and to vet them so that what we were delivering to educators could be trusted and useful, and help integrate technology into the curriculum.
Amazing. And you have an award-winning newsletter. I'm envious. I've been publishing for 16 years and I've yet to win an award. You're inspiring me now.
Well, all you need to do is enter the awards. Uh, that's the start. You have to be in it to win it.
I like that tagline. But yeah, it's about excellence, though, Marilyn. And clearly, your work is head and shoulders above the rest when it comes to, proper spelling and being mindful of your audience and providing great resources.
Yes, and out of the everything we do is made available free to educators. Almost everything. Our newsletter is free. The Big Deal Book of Technology was supported by CDWG,
Nice.
who also distributed it to their customers. We distributed it to our ISTE partners. We have alliances with about 26 state affiliates of ISTE, for which we customize the newsletter. And it's a bi-weekly newsletter that has roughly a 60,000 distribution twice a month. And so that's the genesis.
Amazing. How important are partnerships?
Well, I found that alliances, I call them alliances, are really important. When we started the K-12 technology newsletter, we grew the distribution first through our alliances with about 4 state affiliates of ISTE. And as we went from one affiliate to another, a common thread was, at the time, they did not have available to them the resources to help their members integrate technology into the curriculum.
Fascinating. Now, your third annual Power Trip, congratulations. Let's talk about your recent summit and what inspired this.
Well, the inspiration of it came from really the education market's focus on SEL and the need to focus on social emotional learning of students. And the inspiration for that came from, well, who's guiding these students on their social emotional learning journeys? And then who's guiding those educators? Simultaneously, we were sitting around in a group, and the issue of stress, as long as I can remember, stress has been a top factor for leaders and teachers in the education field, for decades. And once again, we were talking about how it continues to be an issue. And this was pre-pandemic.
Right.
And so that's when the idea came, well, what if we put together, well-being and leadership event that looked at the impact of well-being on leadership effectiveness. And we did a survey of about 950 women district leaders.
Amazing.
And what we found, well, what would what would an event like this, what would you like it to include? And we gave a very, you know, I call it an amoeba-like description of,
Right.
of what this was. And uh, they pretty much said, well, yeah, we would, this sounds really good. And I bounced it off of, a couple of district leaders, just anecdotally. Uh, so it was qualitative research at that point. And we thought this could work. And
Amazing.
I went about looking for appropriate places, venues where this might happen.
Hmm.
And we came upon the first year of a venue called Lake Austin Spa Resort in Austin, Texas. And I reached out to them, and they responded, and they outlined what they had. I took a close look at their website. They provided a proposal, and sight unseen in person, I wrote a check.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, you clearly, I mean, I was just looking at your partners, and you know, it really shows that alliances, as you alluded to, you don't call them partnerships, you call them alliances, and it speaks to your relationships. And as much as we're immersed in edtech, it is about people, and well-being is, you were ahead of your time. I mean, this was before the pandemic, and it all starts with a conversation, and you made it happen,
Right,
which you are about execution, and we share the same passion. And
right.
our workspace, we started with a conversation to solve a real problem. And the problem, there are many challenges that school district leaders face today, particularly post pandemic. And so this must have been uh, more welcome than ever before, the timing of this particular one that you just hosted.
Well, it's also important to put disparate ideas together. One that wouldn't necessarily have thought to put well-being and leadership together
Hmm.
um, in an event. So, I took that leap of faith, and from there, put together an advisory board and got their input. The whole point was for educators to experience, not sit in a room and talk about well-being and self-care, but to
Right.
have them experience it, and to see and feel what it looked like. And that's why our program, uh, we give attendees an entire morning to participate in a range of activities offered by a venue. Uh, you can see from our, as you're scrolling through our program,
Right.
the after 2 years at Lake Austin Spa Resort, we needed to get a slightly bigger venue to accommodate the popularity of the experience. And that's how we went to the Miraval Spa Resort, and that was also in Austin, Texas. And it was the right size, where we had 44 attendees the year before, and that's with 30 educators and the remaining uh, number from sponsors. We went to 75 participants, 54 educators, and the rest that were sponsor representatives.
And what's in store for next year?
Well, we're going back. The thinking at this point is, and we will confirm that within the month, is that we are returning to a Miraval Austin Spa Resort and having another successful event. Because what we find, we do a lot of follow-up surveys, and after each of these events, 100% said they would recommend it to a colleague.
I see our good friend Kathy Hurley was also attending and presenting
Yes,
on putting on your entrepreneurial hat,
yes,
having just released her new book, Innovators.
yes. And she was able to pull out the piece on traits and skills and apply it to district leaders. And Kathy has been a senior advisor to the Power Trip since its inception. So again, alliances and partnerships and friendships mean a lot in terms of moving something forward.
Absolutely. Talk to me about some of the feedback that you got from your attendees, and you had some high profile leaders that were in attendance from some notable school districts as well, no doubt.
We did. Ann Levitt, who is the superintendent of the Savannah Chatham School District, was in attendance, as was Magda Hernandez from the Irving School District, Vivian Etienne from Glendale.
Amazing.
They all, contributed so much, and it really is an honor for me to serve them and provide this experience. And I'm always gratified by the kind of feedback they provide. They use words like transformational, life-altering, inspiring, gratitude, impactful, magical, the best professional development experience of my life.
That's incredible. Wow, that's humbling for you to hear that.
It is. And that's been the sense of it really since the beginning. And the first year I received 3 months after the Power Trip, a detailed email from one of the superintendents, and she said, I would be remiss if I did not share with you. Well, bottom line, her husband was willing at any cost to send her back, but she shared that the Power Trip had given her enough confidence to implement an initiative in her district that prior to that she was not able to do. At this past Power Trip, this amazing story from Magda Hernandez of the Irving School District in Texas shared that because of her experience at the Power Trip last year and the impact of it, she was able to use a $5 million grant to erect a well-being and professional development center.
Amazing.
And they are breaking ground in September, I believe. And she was able to share the renderings of all of the different aspects of this building, and that's the high end, the very large undertaking or inspiration from the Power Trip.
Well,
humbling. I guess on the one hand, one doesn't like to brag about things. I guess that's a Buffalo term. But to hear people feed back to you what you're trying to achieve, unsolicited, is, I think, pretty extraordinary. I mean, one of the sponsors, and I'm going to read this to you if
Yeah,
that's okay,
sure.
is, words cannot express what an amazing event you put together. Thank you so much for the immense effort you put into making sure every detail was perfect. You made your sponsors feel appreciated in a way that I have not experienced to date. So, you know, we try very hard in this experience, and it's a wonderful experience. In the feedback I'm getting from sponsors, to uh, to interact with their target market, in to build relationships with those people over a 3-night 4-day period of time, um, and they appreciate that.
Absolutely. It's a very collegial community. The notion of partnerships, pre-pandemic, during pandemic, and post, it's become paramount in order to make an impact and deal with some of the major challenges that we face in education, because things are not all peaches and cream right
Right.
now, and especially with teachers and kids' well-being have been greatly impacted. So kudos to you, Marilyn, for having the vision and the passion, and taking the risk to make an impact on the lives of leaders in education. And, inspire me to, just keep doing what we're doing, and always, you know, uh, try to do something better each day. One of the superintendents that was recently at ERDI in Baltimore, which we missed you, by the way, and you were busy doing other things like preparing for your Power Trip Summit. I asked 52 years as a superintendent, and I'm going to be doing a interview podcast with this just recently retired district leader, and he said, I said, what was your secret to success and longevity? He said, every day I ask myself, what could I do better? And that really is the essence of what we do, right? It's that growth mindset that we embrace, and that innovator's mindset, if you will. Thoughts?
Well, I agree. Sometimes when we're so focused on, what can we do better, we're really looking at every detail. And uh, sometimes it's appreciated and sometimes not. Uh, in order to, make those improvements. If that makes sense. I'm not sure that makes sense. Um, the I think I just wanted to step back and say the theme this year was new landscapes, new challenges, and so that was both figurative and literal, of the new
Right.
landscape that we were in, and the new challenges that leaders were are forced to face, and have been forced to face as a result of the tumultuousness of the pandemic. The uh, so I just wanted to step back and say that, and we had a lot of really good people step up to uh, present. Ashley Anderson Zantop, who is CEO of Cambium, was our keynote speaker on the first day. On the second day, Lindsay Wharton, who is president of the Holdsworth Center in Texas, was our keynote speaker. And a Holdsworth Center is a really impactful group in Texas only, but it helps districts create and support their pipeline of leadership, and that's essential. That's essential for companies and for districts. So I know we're going over time, and I appreciate you
Well,
indulging me.
well, so much to talk about, so much to unpack. and so much, knowledge to share. Perhaps we should make this a series, a monthly podcast with two awesome publishers and
I-
founders, Marilyn.
I'd be happy to.
With that, thank you so much again, Marilyn,
Thank
for
you.
spending the time with us today, based in Illinois, not California.
Thank
But
you.
that was Marilyn Schultz, the founder of Big Deal Media, on the recent Power Trip Summit. My name is Robert Merdlacci, the MindShare Learning Report. Be sure to check out Mindshare Learning to get your latest issue. And until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and keep the learning curve steep.